I've had a tough but fulfilling life, full of struggles, hard work, heartbreaking losses, and unwavering determination. Despite all I've achieved, enjoying the fruits of my labor always seemed elusive. If I could turn back time and talk to my younger self, I'd urge him to wake up and savor the moments. Unfortunately, my focus was locked on work, much like my father, who immigrated from Poland just before World War II. When my father saw the agreement between Hitler and Stalin, the one signing the Non-Aggression Pact on August 23, 1939, he knew Poland was in trouble. When Hitler invaded in September of that year, my father took his young wife and fled to the United States. I came into the world 15 years later, the fifth child of a hard-working father. By then, my father had started a thriving jewelry business from scratch. He arrived in the United States with nothing, and within a decade, he was successfully running his own jewelry business. My dad didn't need to push us to work hard. It came naturally to us. His story, starting with nothing and building a prosperous life, was our inspiration. Despite the challenges, I can't help but feel grateful for the lessons in hard work and determination that have shaped my life. From a young age, I became an entrepreneur. My very first business involved selling a Playboy magazine to friends for $2 that I had bought for 50 cents. It taught me that understanding the customer's needs is crucial. As I grew older, I realized the importance of catering to what people wanted. In my second year, a friend and I took on the challenge of managing a struggling property. We renovated it to match the needs of students, knowing exactly what our fellow students were looking for. It turned out to be a success. Our apartment became very attractive, and we raised the rent significantly. By the time I graduated college, I had already made enough deals to become a millionaire. After pursuing a law degree and marrying my college sweetheart, we welcomed 2 children into our lives, a boy and a girl. At 45 years old, I had become a successful real estate mogul. Money wasn't a problem for me at the time, but the drive to work harder persisted. It was as if I didn't know how to fully enjoy my time with my family. Even on vacations, I found myself working. The relentless pursuit of success kept me on a constant treadmill, making it challenging to appreciate the achievements and the life I had built. The need to acquire more, to achieve greater heights, overshadowed the importance of simply enjoying the present moments with my loved ones. Looking back, I realized that success isn't just about accumulating wealth. It's also about finding a balance and cherishing the moments that truly matter. If I could turn back time, I'd tell my younger self to pause, take a breath, and savor the roses along the way. Just a few months after I turned 45, I lost my wife to cancer. It was the most transformative moment of my life. I realized that despite all my hard work, I had missed out on spending enough time with my family. After this heartbreaking loss, I decided to make a change. I began to spend more time with my kids. As time went on, I felt that I was still young enough to find love again. 2 years after my wife passed away, I got married to a woman 17 years younger than me. She already had a son from her previous marriage, and I didn't want to have more children. We both shared the pain of being widowed, and it felt like we connected over that shared experience. Learning from the lessons of my late wife, I decided to prioritize spending time with my new wife and our combined family. When I married her, she had very little, and worked as a cashier at a local grocery store. I saw her as a diamond in the dirt, someone with great potential. I wanted to give her a new lease on life. Although we had an ironclad prenup due to legalities, I promised to add her to my will as a gesture of goodwill. I assured her that she would inherit several properties, including our family home. By the time I turned 61, everything seemed perfect. My business was booming, and my kids, my son and her son, were already working in the commercial side of my real estate and construction businesses. Life was going well, and I felt a sense of contentment and happiness that I hadn't experienced before. It took a painful loss to teach me the true value of family and the importance of finding a balance between work and personal life. My marriage was going so well that I added my wife to my will, keeping the promise I made. She and my stepson were set to inherit millions when I'm gone. We didn't have kids together, as I didn't want more children. However, just 2 months after my 62nd birthday, I had a stroke that left me in a coma for 7 long months. When I woke up, it felt like I was a vegetable. Though I was aware of my surroundings, my cognitive function was only 70% there. My response and reaction time were slower, and speaking became a challenge. It seemed to everyone, including my doctor, that I was like a vegetable. I spent 6 months in physiotherapy, learning how to walk and speak again. Strangely, it took my wife a day to come see me when I woke up. I couldn't shake the feeling that she had given up on me. I sensed that she wasn't happy that I woke up, and with my reduced cognitive and motor skills, I felt like she was disappointed. It seemed like she didn't want to endure a marriage with someone who didn't have all his functions as before. This left me severely depressed, but I couldn't share it with anyone. Despite my struggles, I had my 2 children who but only my son is involved in the management of my business. My wife had a small role in management, more ceremonial, to get a handsome check for tax purposes, so she would be well compensated tax-free. On her first birthday after I woke up from the coma, I gifted her $150,000 and an expensive car, thanking her for staying with me through this challenging time. Naively, I hoped it would serve as a token of appreciation for her loyalty and somehow bring back the way things used to be. These were just a few of the many gifts I had given her during the course of our marriage. During those 6 months of physiotherapy, I noticed something odd. My wife would sneak in during midnight to check on me, thinking I wouldn't notice. I was writing a lot back then, as it helped with my cognitive function. I started keeping logbooks, jotting down details, including when she came to visit and when she returned home. I knew my mind wasn't all there, but this behavior felt like a big warning sign that needed to be documented. Then one day I woke up to find she had looked at my logbook and torn out the page where I recorded her late-night visits. I searched for that page and realized it was missing. I didn't confront her about it, realizing she was reading my notes. So I began writing positive things about her, hoping she'd believe everything was fine. She seemed happy, thinking I had forgotten about that page. Even though I had a full-time nurse at home, I still needed my wife there. It's what marriage meant to me. I started checking her accounts and noticed she had taken several trips to vacation spots and seemed to be having more fun than ever while I was in coma. It was a perplexing and hurtful discovery. The person I relied on seemed to be slipping away, enjoying life without me. Despite my efforts to understand and accommodate her, it seemed like she was moving further away from the commitment we once shared. Discovering that my wife wasn't happy when I woke up explained a lot. It's a tough feeling to realize someone you love might have fallen out of love, or never loved you at all. Perhaps this was who she truly was all along, and it took me being in a coma to understand. It was a hard truth to accept. My son, who was in his mid-20s, consistently visited me. Even during the coma, he would talk to me as if having a regular conversation. He played a significant role in managing my business and visited almost every day. During my physiotherapy, I shared my suspicions with him. Concerned about the red flags, he decided to hire a private investigator for me. Nervous about what the investigator might find, I felt apprehensive. It took the investigator 2 months to come back with evidence of an affair. I was frustrated, thinking the delay meant he couldn't find any evidence and that it was all in my head. At that time, my speech was slowly coming back, and I could form complete sentences. When the private investigator finally returned with his findings, I was shocked. The betrayal cut deep. My son was there when the investigator briefed us, and the truth unfolded before our eyes. Discovering that the person my wife was having an affair with was none other than a man I considered like a godson was a devastating blow. This man not only ran my company but was the second in command when my son wasn't around. If I didn't have my son, he would be running the company. The betrayal hit me hard emotionally, and even caused my health to deteriorate further. As the private investigator revealed text messages and private recordings, the shock deepened. The man I thought was my protege, my son's right hand, revealed an entitlement that was truly shocking. The messages exposed how he believed he should be in charge of the company, not my son. The recordings uncovered their plans, expressing their eagerness for my demise so they could seize control of the company from my son by any means necessary. I heard my wife's disturbing wishes for my death, that her affair partner was already married with a family. Their discussions didn't involve running away together. Instead, it seemed like they were using each other for the sole purpose of eliminating me and my son and taking over my legacy. They had a secret apartment in town where they met, and they went on trips together. The betrayal affected not only me but also my son, who felt deeply hurt by the woman he had always considered a mother. Despite knowing that things hadn't always been smooth between my wife and my children, it was painful to realize the extent of the deception. I had married her because I thought she was the perfect fit for my family back then, as she had a child of her own, and I believed we could create a harmonious blended family. The reality of the betrayal shook the foundation of trust and family that I had built over the years. Even though I was aware that my wife was jealous of the attention I gave to my kids and felt I didn't care enough about her son, it wasn't true. I did care about her son, but I couldn't love him as much as my own, which had been a source of conflict earlier in our marriage. I thought money could solve the problem, so I threw money at her, thinking it would make her happy. Her son held an executive position in my company, making a good living thanks to me, and I felt she should have been appreciative of the opportunities he had because of me. After the private investigator's briefing, my son and I decided to fire my so-called godson. However, we needed to understand what he was planning, especially in areas of the business where we had no oversight. Secretly, we invited accountants and lawyers to audit the business. During the audit, we discovered that he had taken several unauthorized loans and made deals that, if revealed, would undoubtedly get him fired and jeopardize the company. These actions could also put us in trouble with the IRS. The forensic accounting involved unraveling the complicated web of financial crimes. We traced the unauthorized loans, dissected the deals, and meticulously reviewed financial records. Each step required careful analysis, and our team of experts had to connect the dots to understand the extent of the wrongdoing. This process involved scrutinizing financial statements, transaction records, and communication trails to expose the truth. Immediately after uncovering this financial misconduct, we got the authorities involved. Rather than confronting him in person, I chose not to give him the respect he might have deserved after hearing the damning audio between him and my wife. The recording revealed his desire for my demise, his affair with my wife, and his utter lack of gratitude. My son and I then planned something special for my wife, wanting to address the situation collectively. This tumultuous time coincided with my worsening medical condition. The doctor had informed me that I had about 7 months to live, and I was dealing with additional health complications that I didn't want to delve into in this story. The urgency to address these betrayals and secure the future of the company added immense pressure to an already challenging situation. One of the few pleasures I had during this tumultuous time was being the one to inform my wife about the financial crimes committed by her affair partner. It brought me satisfaction to witness her reaction as she realized that her malicious plans were backfiring. Little did she know that I was fully aware of her affair, and both she and her affair partner were being monitored by the private investigator. I watched as she freaked out during our interactions and in her conversations with him on the phone and through text. They had no clue that their secrets were exposed. It was never brought up, and her affair partner had no idea how his illicit activities were uncovered, except for the fact that I decided to conduct an intensive forensic audit of my business, which made sense given my prolonged absence. I couldn't blame my son for the oversight, as there were sections of the business that I had entrusted to my godson's control. With my lawyer, I made changes to my will, removing my wife from it. Although I left some money for her son, I significantly reduced the amount and explained in the will why I did so, placing the blame on his mother. While he was an okay stepson and not at fault, part of my decision was motivated by a desire for retribution, to use her son against her when I'm gone. I also wrote a letter to her son, essentially letting him go from my company in a kind manner. I didn't want my son to bear the burden of firing him himself. It was a tough decision for me, considering her son had visited me in the hospital and was raised in my house. But the betrayal by my wife changed something within me. I didn't want to leave any doubt about who the company belonged to when I'm gone. All these decisions and emotions were laid out in the letter. The only thing I left for my wife was a divorce paper to be served by my lawyer when I pass away. When my godson was arrested, my wife wanted me to reach out, trying to get me to intervene. I pretended that my hands were tied, feigning sickness even though I could have done something. They didn't understand what was really going on, and a part of me enjoyed watching them scramble like chickens with their heads cut off. My company didn't escape unscathed. We had to pay millions in restitution to the IRS. Even though some of the crimes might have gone uncovered, my son and I brought everything to light in the spirit of transparency. My godson knew it could have stayed hidden, but he understood we were pushing for justice, feeling the weight of the betrayal against our trust. He knew he was like family to us, yet he was facing not less than 5 years in prison. 2 months ago, he was convicted, but the sentencing hasn't taken place yet. We anticipate that he will receive about 5 years or so for his actions. The legal consequences of his betrayal and the financial repercussions on my company were harsh, but I believed in holding people accountable, even those who were once considered like family. I'm sharing this story as I've been reading a lot about infidelity and came across this forum. The pandemic has kept me away from seeing people and my grandkids, but since time is limited for me, I've been spending more time with my grandkids and my daughter. My daughter is unaware of my wife's affair, as she is not involved in the business, focusing on a different field. Since her affair partner was convicted, My wife has been trying to spend more time with me. Still, I've been using my grandkids as an excuse to keep my distance. I've been documenting and recording my experiences for my children, grandchildren, and posterity. Sharing my story on this public forum feels like a way to leave a piece of my journey behind. It's a strange feeling to know that when some of you read this, I will no longer be here. One last detail. When I bought my primary residence 15 years ago, I used both my wife's name and mine to assure her that I would leave her the house. However, I intentionally placed a lien on the property to make it less valuable. When I'm gone and she tries to sell it, she'll quickly find out about the lien from the title company, realizing that all she has left are the 2 expensive cars I bought her. I would have liked to put a lien on the cars too, so she could feel the consequences, but they are in her name. She has no retirement plan, so I hope she enjoys spending her retirement under a bridge, since I know she would run through the rest of the money she has been stashing away over the years, now that she doesn't have an unlimited supply. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that wealth is good, but spending time with family is even more crucial. I regret not spending enough time with my first wife, and now with my current wife. The realization about the importance of time spent with loved ones is a lesson that I hope others can take away from my story. As I write this on August 15, 2020, I reflect on the complexities of life, the choices I made, and the consequences that got me to this point. I accept my faith and have nothing else to add more than what I had already said, but Mazel Tov on my imminent demise.